There's a moment almost everyone has lived through. You finally get the job you wanted, the relationship you wanted, the opportunity you wanted. And then, without really meaning to, you start picking it apart. You show up late. You pick a fight over nothing. You stop trying right when trying would matter most. And afterward, you sit there wondering, why did I do that? Why did I ruin the one thing I said I wanted? Sigmund Freud had an answer for this more than a century ago, and it's still one of the most uncomfortable, most accurate explanations of human behavior ever proposed. He didn't call it self-sabotage. He called it something stranger and honestly more disturbing: repetition, compulsion. And once you understand what he meant by it, you'll start seeing it everywhere in your own life. Freud noticed something odd in his patients. People who had been hurt, who had suffered painful experiences, didn't avoid those experiences in the future. They recreated them, over and over. A person who grew up with a parent who was emotionally unavailable would, as an adult, find themselves drawn to partners who were emotionally unavailable. Someone who was abandoned as a child would unconsciously engineer situations where they got abandoned again, as if some part of them was compelled to relive the wound rather than escape it. This is the part that throws people off. Logically, none of this makes sense. If something hurt you, you should avoid it. That's how pain is supposed to work. It teaches you what to stay away from. But Freud argued that the unconscious mind doesn't operate on logic. It operates on familiarity. And to the unconscious mind, familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar uncertainty, even when that unfamiliar uncertainty is actually good for you. Think about that for a second, because it's the key to almost everything that looks like self-sabotage. Success, love, stability. These can feel foreign if you didn't grow up with them. And the human mind, according to Freud, has a deep, almost gravitational pull toward what it already knows, even when what it knows is suffering. He believed this pull came from somewhere very deep, something he eventually called the death drive. Not a literal wish to die, but a kind of psychic undertow, pulling us back toward repetition, toward stillness, toward the patterns we've already lived, instead of the unknown territory of something new and better. So when you sabotage the good job, the good relationship, the good opportunity, you are not being weak, and you are not being stupid. According to Freud, you are following a script that was written long before you were old enough to question it. A script written in childhood, buried in the unconscious, running in the background of your adult decisions like a program you never agreed to install. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Freud said that whatever we don't consciously process gets repressed, pushed down out of awareness. But repression doesn't destroy it. It just hides it. And anything hidden in the unconscious doesn't go quiet. It looks for a way out. It leaks into your choices, your relationships, your habits, your fears, often disguised as something that looks like your own free will. You think you're choosing to pull away from someone who loves you. You think you're choosing to quit right before the finish line. But Freud would say you're not really choosing at all. You're being driven by something underneath the surface that you can't see, because you were never given the chance to look at it directly. This is why self-help advice like just believe in yourself or just stop overthinking often fails so completely. It's trying to solve an unconscious problem with a conscious solution. It's like trying to fix a leak in the basement by mopping the kitchen floor. Freud's entire model of the mind was built on the idea that the things driving our behavior are mostly hidden from us, and that real change requires bringing those hidden things into the light, not just trying harder on the surface. Let's make this concrete, because Freud's ideas can sound abstract until you map them onto real life. Say you had a parent who only showed you approval when you achieved something. Love, in your house, was conditional. It had to be earned. Now, as an adult, you find yourself in a relationship with someone who loves you unconditionally, no performance required. And instead of feeling safe, something in you feels suspicious, even bored. Some part of you doesn't trust love that isn't earned, because your nervous system was trained on a different definition of love entirely. So you create tension, you create distance, you manufacture obstacles because conflict and earning and striving feel like home, even though peace is what you say you want. Or take career. Maybe you grew up in a household where your worth was tied to constant performance, constant proving. As an adult, the moment you get close to real recognition, a promotion, a finished project, public success, anxiety spikes instead of joy. And so you stall. You miss the deadline. You undercut your own pitch in the final meeting. Why would anyone do that to themselves? Freud's answer is unsettling but simple, because unconscious familiarity is sometimes more powerful than conscious desire. Some part of you isn't actually trying to fail. Some part of you is trying to return to the only emotional climate it has ever known how to survive. This is also where Freud's idea of defense mechanisms comes in, because self-sabotage rarely announces itself honestly. It hides behind rationalizations. You don't think, I am terrified of intimacy, so I will pick a fight. You think, they don't really get me anyway, or I'm just being practical, or this probably wouldn't have worked out long-term regardless. Freud would call this rationalization, one of the mind's favorite tools for protecting you from a truth that feels too dangerous to face directly. The mind would rather hand you a believable story than make you sit with an unbearable feeling. Now here's the part that actually matters, the part that turns this from a dark observation into something useful. Freud believed that the unconscious only has power over you as long as it stays unconscious. The entire goal of psychoanalysis, the method he spent his life developing, was to drag these hidden patterns into conscious awareness, because once you can see a pattern clearly, it loses some of its grip on you. You can't out-discipline a pattern you don't understand, but you can begin to interrupt a pattern the moment you recognize its shape. So if you've ever found yourself wrecking something good right when it started going well, the first question worth asking isn't, what's wrong with me? It's, what does this remind me of? Where have I felt this exact flavor of discomfort before? When did I first learn that good things don't last, or that love has to be earned, or that success is dangerous, or that comfort can't be trusted? Freud would tell you the answer is almost never in the present moment. It's sitting somewhere further back, in a relationship or an experience you may not have thought about in years, quietly steering the wheel. This is also why he placed so much emphasis on early childhood. Not because he thought adults were permanently broken by their past, but because he believed the earliest relationships lay down the emotional blueprint everything else gets built on. You don't remember learning the blueprint. You just live inside it, mistaking it for personality, mistaking it for just the way I am. The unsettling truth in all of this is that self-sabotage is rarely random and rarely about laziness or lack of willpower, the way we usually frame it. According to Freud, it is often the most loyal, most consistent behavior you have. A faithful repetition of something your mind decided, a long time ago, was simply how life works. The hopeful part, the part that makes this worth understanding rather than just unsettling, is that loyalty to an old pattern is not the same as being permanently stuck with it. Awareness was, for Freud, the beginning of freedom. Not a magic fix, not an instant cure, but the first real crack in a pattern that has been running on autopilot for years. So the next time you catch yourself pulling away from something good, pause before you call yourself weak or careless. Ask what that moment actually feels like, and whether you felt that exact feeling before, long before now. Freud's wisdom was never really about blame. It was about bringing the hidden parts of ourselves into the light, so that for the first time, we get an actual choice in the matter.